Hello to Bose Work. Solutions bring the simplicity and clarity and technology of Bose Pro to conferencing and unified communication applications. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Paxson. He'll walk you through our lineup of Bose Work solutions, and I think you're going to be really excited. So Paxson, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you, John. Thank you, Stacy. So my name is Paxson Laird. I manage the sales engineering group for Bose Professional. So we have a team of folks across North and South America that are available to help out with design and application supports. So as John said, I'm going to talk with you for the next bit about Bose Work and what we're doing. Please, as I'm going along, enter any questions into the chat window. I think Stacy's going to monitor that for us, and we'll either take some questions at the end, or Stacy will kind of jump in the middle, and we'll try to answer them live as we go. It's always more interesting when we can get the questions live, so hopefully we'll be able to take advantage of that. So first, you know, the big thing in the work world right now is obviously COVID-19. So I just want to give you a little bit of our perspective of what we're seeing, what we're hearing, and then we'll talk about why Bose decided to get into this category, as well as, of course, a few of the products themselves. So, you know, I think we've all been living with this, right? Nothing new there as far as the fact that COVID-19 is here and has changed things. The big thing that we are seeing and the perspective that we have is that COVID-19 has really accelerated change that was already taking place. We've seen that people were already adopting UC platforms, right? This isn't new. It's just that it's been pushed to the extreme during this period as far as people doing remote meetings, doing remote trainings, and participating in remote environments. And of course, the work from home aspect that wasn't as prevalent as it, of course, is now. We all expect that to go back, but not to go back to what we were prior to this period. So what that means is really that you know, companies in the short term, from our perspective, are trying to get more flexible meeting spaces. As people start to come back into the office, they want to spread out. They want to spread out their employees and give them easy ways to collaborate. Most of us, as I am right now, are working at home. I'm in my kitchen at the moment, so I can do a demonstration for you later. But that's kind of the way that we're working, and we expect that hybrid work environment to become, you know, the normal for many companies moving forwards. Obviously, some will go back to a full in-person model. But we expect that the short term will be more of these temporary spaces, temporary environments, and then longer term, the need for easy connectivity in many spaces so that we can tie remote and in-office employees together is going to become a bit of our new normal, for lack of a better term. So just want to talk a little bit about why Bose got into this. Obviously, we didn't start coming out with work products or products for the work environment because of COVID-19. We had products well before it, and we're in development of other products before and during this period. But obviously, you know, as I said, the COVID-19 experience has accelerated this work environment that we've all been moving towards, which is really, for better or worse, the fact that most of us are working pretty much everywhere or anywhere at this point. You know, even if we have an office, we're often taking calls on the way to the office or from the airport or at home, whether that's, you know, because we're working at home or before or after normal work hours. And so as Bose, between our consumer, automotive, and professional divisions, we kind of saw a unique place for us in being that we're already kind of in all of these different places that people are working today. And so we started looking at how do we create better experiences for people. And that's really what we've been focusing on and will continue to focus on as far as our product and our offering for the work environment. What we are doing is kind of what we've been known for, which is to create devices which enhance the experience. So we're not looking to replace Teams, GoToMeeting, Zoom, any of those. The UC platforms that are out there are very good at what they do. What we are looking to do is enhance the experience for the individuals and in the space. Sorry, Stacy, was there Somebody jumping in?
Nope. We're good.
All right, no worries. I just heard a little bit of noise. I figured I'd check in. We're doing that currently in 3 different ways. We are and have been selling solutions for integrated rooms. So this product line has been out for many years, but we've done some updates to it, which I'll talk about in just a second. We have also introduced an all-in-one video bar, which is really looking at the huddle space all the way up to the medium-sized room with a peripheral device for UC clients. And then we've also made some enhancements to some of our noise canceling headphones for personal business use. And this is taking our latest NC700s. We've paired them with the USB link module to enable personal device connected to your computer with a business experience. Today, we're going to focus on the integrated room as well as the all-in-one solution. So with that, I'm going to jump in and talking a little bit about what we're doing on the integrated room side. As I mentioned, we've had loudspeakers, processors, amplifiers appropriate for integrated rooms for many years now. What's different currently with us is the push to do certifications with different UC providers. So the biggest UC and the most influential in the market right now is Microsoft Teams, and Teams has some strict certification that they follow. So most manufacturers, and Bose included, kind of start with Microsoft, and then we branch out from there. When you look at a Microsoft Teams certified room, you actually have to have all of the components in the room to become a certified solution. So it means loudspeaker, microphone, DSP, and amplifier all have to be part of a team certified solution. One of the bit of misnomers in the market is having a single team certified device. That's only true of all-in-one devices. So with our team room solutions, we have partnered with Sennheiser and with their TCC2 TeamConnect Ceiling 2 microphone to create some Microsoft certified solutions. And this is going to include, we have 2 different packages. One that includes the EdgeMax in-ceiling loudspeaker, which is the one we're looking at on the screen right now, the Sennheiser TCC2 microphone, the Bose EX440C processor, and one of our power space amplifiers. So as we look at this, I'm just going to talk quickly about some of the different components and attributes of the system, and then kind of how it all comes together. So I know many of you are familiar with the EdgeMax in-ceiling loudspeaker. This has been on the market for a number of years. It is really kind of a unique loudspeaker, especially when we talk about an integrated room space. So this in-ceiling loudspeaker actually mounts around along the perimeter of the room, so up against the wall. And is used to replace, either one or a number of traditional in-ceiling loudspeakers. So if we look at a traditional in-ceiling loudspeaker, it's the round loudspeaker distributed throughout the space with a conical pickup pattern. Typically looking at overlapping these for even coverage in the space. These work great, right? We've used these for many years. But when you talk about a video conference call, it starts to get a little bit distracting to have the sound coming from above and the voice coming from the front. And so with the EdgeMax ceiling loudspeaker, what we're doing is actually have a different pickup pattern. So it comes down 15 degrees from the ceiling in one direction, and then 90 degrees at the back of this loudspeaker. So you have this asymmetrical 75-degree pickup pattern, which you see in the image at the bottom of the screen. With the phase guide, as part of the EdgeMax ceiling speaker, we're actually reducing the SPL and doing a tonal shift or tonal shaping as you get closer to the loudspeaker from the furthest listener. And this allows us to have really even coverage in the room. It also allows us to pull the perspective up to the display where you're hearing the presenter on the far end talk. So in a typical medium conference room, we would use a single EdgeMax loudspeaker, the EM180, mounted above the display. This can fill a room of 11 or so people and have a really natural experience. So in a space like this, you typically have 2 ceiling loudspeakers, With the EdgeMax loudspeaker, you can accomplish the needed experience with a single loudspeaker. Having it in the ceiling still keeps a nice clean display wall, so architects tend to prefer that, of not having to have anything in the wall or attached to the display in certain rooms. So if we look at a larger room, being that it's mounted on the perimeter of the space, the EdgeMax design philosophy is definitely a little bit unique in that we treat it more like a delay system. We have the single EdgeMax loudspeaker above the display, and then as the room lengthens, we actually add EdgeMax loudspeakers along the sides. We then delay those loudspeakers and lower their volume relative to the front. So all they're providing is speech intelligibility and filling out the room with the perspective still coming from the front of the room. And the EdgeMax loudspeaker has a really nice low profile look to it. So you can see in this space, there's 3 EdgeMax loudspeakers mounted along the perimeter of the room with the TCC2 microphone in the center.
Hey, Paxson.
Yes.
There's a little bit of reverberation going on, just so you know.
Okay. Interesting. Not sure. Was that there before, Stacey, or is that just appeared?
I think it just appeared.
Switch to a different device if it's distracting. I don't know if it's something with an open microphone on the line.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right, we'll try to continue on. If needed, I can maybe have John grab for a minute and grab a different device if needed. So that was the EdgeMax loudspeaker as part of the ES1 solution. As we look at that's the EdgeMax loudspeaker is certainly unique in its design, and it's not going to work for every space. Right? We're fully aware of that. With Bose, we obviously have a full line of loudspeakers, everything from a small 2 1/4 inch loudspeaker, which we'll look at right now, up to an 8-inch coaxial design and ceiling loudspeaker. With the DS4 ceiling solution, what we've included is the DM2C LP loudspeaker. And this is a low profile in-ceiling loudspeaker, traditional design, but it uses a full range 2 1/4 inch driver. Bose has done a lot of research in the small drivers and being able to actually maximize the output in the lower frequencies. So there's no special EQ that's needed to make this work. We can sweeten it up with EQ, but especially for a conference room application, it'll work just fine flat. But this CM2C, LP loudspeaker is great for a conference room because it doesn't have the crossover right in the middle of the vocal range, which is what we find is somewhat distracting on many in-ceiling loudspeakers with a 2A design. And as I mentioned, it's a shallow backhand, so 3.9 inch backhand, so it really makes the integration with other room elements much easier. So the only difference between the ES1 and the DS4 that I mentioned at the beginning are the different loudspeaker options. They are both bundled with the EX440C conferencing processor. So this is a 4x4 analog processor, but it has a 16x16 Dante bus native and 8 channels of acoustic echo cancellation. It also includes VoIP, PSTN, and USB audio. So this integrates really nicely with the Sennheiser TCC2 microphone, which uses a single channel of Dante audio and can connect directly through the network switch up with the EX440C processor. We've also built in control modules to allow most of the setup and integration of the microphone to be done directly through the control space software. If you do need a bigger processor, we also have a 12x8 analog version of this processor, which is the EX1280C, and that has 64x64 Dante bus native on it. That one is also certified for Microsoft Teams rooms. So the last device in these systems is the amplifier, where we're using the PowerSpace P2600A amplifier. So this is a two channel 600 watt per channel amplifier, which has analog as well as AmpLink inputs. AmpLink is a proprietary Bose bus that provides 2 channels of low latency digital audio over a shielded Cat5 from the processor to the amplifier. Well, it's actually a larger bus than 2 channel, but this amplifier is a 2 channel amplifier. It just gives you a really quick, easy connection. Don't have to make any analog wiring and connect directly from the processor to the amplifier. The shielded Cat5 is included with the amplifier in the box. This is a high Z or a low Z amplifier, so 70 volt, 100 volt, or 4 ohm, 8 ohm. And it, of course, includes a global mute when you need to do that. But this amplifier, when we're using single, EdgeMax, certainly is plenty of power. But we also do the multi-zone setup with this, as the side channels are daisy chained together in either high impedance or low impedance. So I just want to share the setup of the ES1 very quickly. This is the wiring diagram that's needed for the solution. So 2 Cat5 cables from the Sennheiser microphone to the network switch. It does need PoE to power the microphone, but PoE and control on one wire, and then Dante on the other. From the Bose side, it's a single Cat5 connection from the processor to the network switch, and then a single shielded AmpLink connection from the processor to the amplifier. So the nice thing about this solution is that almost everything that we're doing here is pre-made cables, which really makes the setup and testing quite simplistic. We also have template files for the small and the medium-sized solutions for this, so that you have a template, you load it into the processor. It walks you through the room calibration that you need to do, and it really makes the setup and configuration of these solutions quite simplistic. So Stacey, we're gonna transition here from the integrated rooms to the VB1 all-in-one video bar solution. Before I do that, are there any questions about the ES1 and the DS4? And is my audio okay?
Yeah, I think you sound fine. I think it's, unfortunately, I know you have a sore throat, so that might be part of the issue. I don't see any questions popping up about anything so far.
Okay, great. I appreciate that. So that was the as I mentioned, the ES1 and the DS4, which is again a bundled solution for used with the Sennheiser microphone and certified Microsoft Teams, and it is a Zoom compatible solution. So I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the VB1 video bar. So this device we've been talking about for a little while. We're excited that it will be ready for sale. We actually have some early units coming in December for selected distribution for some customers that we've been working with. And then we will have full production, full availability at the end of January. So as we looked at the all-in-one video bar, sound bar solutions that have been on the market, the takeaway from customers and from our evaluation was really that they were kind of good enough, and people accepted them for what they were. But we really felt like there was space for a premium offering in the spaces that these devices were going into. Obviously, Bose is known for soundbars, and we certainly used our industrial design and some of the research that we had done into soundbars with this device. But this is a professional device, and it's been designed specifically for the professional market. And our goal here was really to have a solution that worked well for the traditional huddle rooms, but also got into those medium conference rooms. And we kind of have 6 key elements that you see on your screen now. Which is a microphone design with 6 microphone elements, able to pick up voices from 20 feet away. A 4K camera with a wide field of view, but with some good zoom as well. Premium audio playback. This is an interesting one for us because, of course, it's something we're known for. It's not something that people necessarily know that they need until they hear that there's something better out there. And it's been kind of an eye-opening experience for people of having a true sound bar in a video bar that creates that premium audio experience. Obviously, low profile design, wants to look nice with the monitors, but also meets some ADA type restrictions. And then a single cable connectivity, which I'll talk about, as well as remote management options. So first thing, right, we all kind of talk about huddle spaces and medium-sized rooms, and it really means a lot of different things to different people. When we talk about the classic huddle room, we're usually referring to a space that has 3 or 6 chairs in it, but it's more about the simplicity of use, right? A huddle space for most people is someplace that they can go into, informally meet with a few people, quickly connect up their device, connect to a remote participant, do some collaboration, and leave the space. One of the changes that we've been seeing in business is that people want that experience, not just in these smaller rooms, but also in those medium-sized rooms, which are typically underserved by technology. Right? We have the small rooms that we'd outfit, we'd have the large, fully integrated rooms, and then there was kind of this middle ground space that was often underutilized or underserved by technology. And so, as I mentioned before, we're really looking at, how do we take that medium-sized space and provide a better solution. So, as we look at the different elements of the VB1, I'm going to kind of put it in the context of both the huddle room space as well as the medium conference room. So, the first thing, as we talk about the huddle room and the medium-sized room, is really, what does the voice pickup need to be? In a huddle room, this is relatively easy. Right? We're relatively close to the device, and it's not hard to accomplish good voice pickup. Once we get into that medium-sized space, though, there's a couple of different solutions that folks have been using, and the one that we see most often is that a puck on the middle of the table, which kind of defeats the purpose of the video bar. Right? We have to have the extra added labor to install it. We're no longer having the pickup from the front. Now we're picking up from the center, and we get the table noise and omnidirectional microphones and everything that goes along with that. So with the VB1, we wanted to ensure that we really had good mic pickup from the device itself. So we have 6 wideband microphones, and these are used to create narrow beams. So the 6 wideband microphones create 4 dynamic narrow beams. They're able to track around the room, and I'll do a demonstration for you in just a minute of how this works. These are creating 15-degree narrow beams, and they do go through a gated automatic microphone mixer. But this allows you to have natural conversation with multiple people around the space and quickly and easily switch between talkers. Even when somebody, because we do have those narrow beams, when somebody's standing at the back of the room and writing on the whiteboard, we've had many experiences and demonstrations where that person at the back of the room is still audible, even though they're facing right towards the reflective surface that they're writing on the back of the room. So the dynamic microphones allow us to easily track around a space and ensure that everybody is able to be heard. That's great for a medium conference room, especially in a closed space. One of the things that we see quite often in the huddle space is that they're either partially open or they have a space that's just essentially always left open. The huddle rooms often have chairs that are movable. They might still have the whiteboards and people that are kind of up and walking around. So we still want to be able to use the dynamic microphones in this type of space, but we want to ensure that we're only picking up the people that we want to pick up. So we've included 3 exclusion zones in the VB1. There are 2 at the front of the unit, which are either used to take away the door that might be at the front of the room, or ensure that you're only being heard when you're able to be seen by the camera. And the third one is completely dynamic, so you can place it anywhere that you would like it to go in the space, and it's just going to ensure that those dynamic microphones are not tracking into the exclusion zone. What we found in testing is that in an exclusion zone, in a completely closed room, we'll typically have about 6 dB of reduction in an exclusion zone, and in a completely open space, we'll have up to 30 dB of reduction. So really just being able to ensure that the microphones don't track into that space really can work well in the VB1. So we have the dynamic microphones so that you can really get up, be mobile, and have an experience however you would like to. There are spaces like a meeting booth or a telephone booth where it's a smaller space and you'll have kind of fixed seating in it, right? In this space, there's only 4 places that those folks could possibly sit. And so using static beams is typically a better experience. So the microphone beam is selectable between static or dynamic. And when it's a fixed location like this, you only have the microphone beams focused exactly where the seats are. It'll ensure that no additional pickup is picked up from around. The microphones won't track into any of the other spaces, and it provides the greatest amount of isolation, especially in an open space like this one. So what I would like to do for you is a quick demonstration of the microphone beam tracking as well as the exclusion zones. So in order to do that, I'm going to turn off my camera here and switch over to software, which of course it timed me out of. Sorry for the messy desktop. And Stacy, if you can just let me know if you guys are still seeing my screen here.
We are seeing your screen. We're seeing you from a new direction.
Yes, exactly. Although it should have been the same direction. So if you were seeing this view before, just a wider. And I apologize, as I said, I'm obviously working from home, so you have my full kitchen here as well. It just did what it wasn't supposed to. I'm just going to exit out this and then come right back into it for a second here. All right. Hopefully it will decide to cooperate with me. So this is our Bose Work configuration software. So it's one of the tools that we have to do the setup of the VB1. What you're seeing is the microphone setup screen. So I'm going to just get up here and walk around my kitchen island a little bit. And what you'll see is the beams tracking as I move. You'll see the white line down the center, which is what's looking for audio in the space. And then you'll see the colored beams that will start to track as I move around. And it'll reallocate beams to where I'm standing. So I can come up to the VB1. Right now I'm about 4 to 5 feet away from it. And then as I move around the space, it's going to track me as I'm moving around. And I'm at the back of the space now, which is roughly 14 feet away from the VB1. And hopefully you're hearing the audio. As it's transitioning between the beams, create a seamless experience as I get up and move around the room. So the other thing I wanted to show you in here is we do have these exclusion zones. So you'll see these down at the bottom. But I'm going to add in another exclusion zone into the center here. It is, we're still in bin on this, and I just had to update my firmware on this unit. It's doing something that's not supposed to be, which is zooming in and out on the screen, which makes the exclusion zone very difficult to set up. There we go. So I'm just going to place this and stretch it out so that it's covering me as I speak. And hopefully you'll hear a reduction in my voice as the exclusion zone is over top. And just going to remove it now. And obviously I have no feedback on how that works. So hopefully you guys were able to hear that there was a reduction in my voice as the exclusion zone came over top of where I was sitting.
Paxson, we did hear that. Well, we didn't hear that. How's that?
That's perfect. Thank you. Yes. It's always an interesting demonstration because you have absolutely no idea what's happening. All right, so that is the dynamic microphone tracking for static. As I mentioned, there's a simple static button and it puts it into a static mode. And these, you can just drag them to wherever you need them to be or eliminate them when they're not required. And what you're seeing right now is the full wide view of the camera. So that, and this is actually an older optics. We are coming out with new optics when we have, oops, sorry. Speaking without being in the correct zone, we will be coming out with new optics, which will provide straighter lines. That will be coming out in the production unit in January. All right, I'm going to jump back into the presentation here. Stacey, do we have any questions that have popped up along the way?
I have not seen any yet, so.
All right, no problem. All right, so with that then, you should be seeing my presentation again, hopefully.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So that was the microphones, right? With 6 microphone beams, able to create 4 dynamic or static microphone beams at 15 degrees. And of course the 3 exclusion zones as well. On the camera, sorry, my presentation is kind of jumping around on me. On the camera, we do have a 4K Ultra HD camera. You can kind of see it in that image there built in. One of the common questions that we get is, did you create your own camera? And the answer is yes, we didn't buy a huddle or another camera. There are a couple of reasons for that. They didn't have the performance characteristics that we were looking for, and we also needed a very specific form factor in order to fit into the VB1. We really wanted to ensure that we had a nice, low-profile, aesthetically appealing device. So we did create this camera, and we have been, building the algorithms behind it. We did want to ensure that we had the widest field of view available on the market. This is, of course, important for those huddle rooms. The field of view specifications is somewhat interesting in this space. There's a couple of different ways of looking at this, but our camera does have a 115-degree field of view in the horizontal and 123-degree in the diagonal. What that actually means is that you can get about 10 to 12 inches away from the VB1 in a typical huddle room space and still be in the camera view. So about as close as you'll want to be looking at it at a typical display. For the larger spaces, we of course still need the wide field of view in some cases, but what we really need is to ensure that we have good pickup and auto framing. Again, we want to be able to track people as they're coming into the room and as they're moving around the room. So we will, at the release of the unit, we will have auto framing that will be doing group auto framing. So basically, if you have it enabled, it will ensure that anybody in the room is in the view of the far end. And then shortly after release, we'll be working on individual auto framing as well. So individual framing so that you can actually have the camera go to the specific talker in the room. That will be available shortly after the release of the unit with just a firmware update. The other thing, of course, in the medium to larger size rooms is really being able to see kind of the text at the at the distance. I apologize, I didn't switch my camera back. So hopefully you're seeing me still.
Hey, Paxson, we have a question.
Yeah.
Can VB1 work with all conferencing software, Zoom, Teams, etc.?
Yes, absolutely. That is a great question. We are in the process of Zoom certification with the VB1 right now. I'm sorry, I think I said Zoom. We're in the process of Teams certification with the VB1 right now. The reason we started with Microsoft Teams is that is the most restrictive certification. And then we'll be immediately working with Zoom and Google for Zoom and Meet certification. But it is compatible with every typical UC platform. It's just a peripheral device.
All right, and we have another question. Can you remind us when this will be available?
Yeah, so we are doing early devices for select customers in December, and then we'll have the wide availability in the end of January. Great questions. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Just kind of finishing up on the camera, we did want to make sure that the far end participants could really participate in the experience. And one of the things that we found was you could see the people in the room with most cameras, but it was really difficult to read text that was written onto the whiteboard. So what you're seeing in this rendering is a 6-meter view of 1.5-inch text and kind of what that looks like through the lens of the VB1. So as I mentioned, I have the older optics in this unit, so I'm not able to do a good demonstration for you today here, which is why we're showing the rendering view, and I do apologize for that. I'm hoping to get my actual unit in December as well. So 4K Ultra HD camera with digital pan tilt and zoom, and 123 diagonal field of view. So next here, let's take a quick look at the loudspeaker, the audio playback side of things. So obviously, you know, again, Bose has been making soundbars for many, many years, but we didn't just take a soundbar and kind of stick a camera in the center of it. We really did design everything for this device, specifically for the pro environment, which included the audio playback. So for this device, we're using a racetrack driver, or 2 racetrack drivers. And this is a relatively new speaker design. It's been in the consumer market for a while, but we've started introducing it into the Pro line, including some of our portable products in the L1 Pro family that we introduced earlier, actually last month. But what a racetrack driver does is it takes the circular design that we're used to in a woofer and then kind of squishes it down. So you get this oval shape from the driver. It does a couple of things. The main thing for us, though, is that, of course, it maintains that low-profile design of the soundbar, but still has good low-end extension so that it's pleasant for listening to music. On the audio playback side, we are going to do different EQ, whether you're in a UC call or whether you're just listening to music. So if you're connected through the USB connection and listening to music, you'll get the one EQ. If you're connected through a UC, you'll get a EQ specific to our voice. And then we also have Bluetooth and 3.5 audio connections as well. So what we found is that in many environments, people kind of want to escape to some of these spaces that this device would go into. And so being able to connect up with Bluetooth or through a wired connection and just listen to music as they work is really preferable. The other thing that we've done that's a little bit unique about this is we actually have the drivers yawed in a little bit. So they're actually turned so they're pointing more into the center of the device and not just flat. And what this does is it minimizes the reflections in the room, but it also orients you more towards the display so that you really are hearing the audio from where the person is situated. So I mentioned that we've gone for a low profile design a couple of times. This is the actual dimensions of the VB1, so 27 inches long. It is just under 2 inches high and then 3.8 inches deep. And we've obviously designed this to make sure that we were compliant with ADA. And I'll kind of explain that as we look through the mounting options and then the connector panel as well. So the VB1 comes with a table mount stand. So out of the box, you'll get a kick tail mount if you just need to set it on top of the credenza. It also ships with a wall cleat. So if you want to mount it directly to the wall, either above or below the display, you can do that with a wall cleat. That also comes in the box. And then we do have an optional VESA mount accessory. So again, this can go either above or below the display and connect directly to the display mount. I don't have an image of it, but we also have a mud-ring accessory. So if you're doing new installation with either a 2-gang or a 4-inch square box, you can mount directly to that without any additional mounting accessories and have a nice cable pass through for it. And with the wall cleat or the mud-ring accessory, those both will be compliant with ADA. The VESA mount obviously is based on the display mount itself and what type of mount it is as to whether or not that's going to comply with ADA, but of course it will mount flush with the display. From a connectivity perspective, you'll see that the connector panel is actually recessed into the unit. And we did that to ensure that even when all the connectors were on, we still were less than 4 inches away from the wall from the front of the VB1. So we have the wired Ethernet, of course, power, the audio in that I mentioned, USB-C, as well as the HDMI connection. We also have a control input for any areas that have a requirement for muting any loudspeakers in the room. This shows a USB accessory. Unfortunately, that was removed from the device based on Microsoft requirements. So for connectivity, we've designed the VB1 with a USB-C connection. So this provides us a single connection from the laptop to the VB1 in a BYOD environment to enable a one-cable meeting, which carries the display, the camera, the microphones, and the audio playback. You then simply connect the HDMI out of the VB1 up to the monitor, and you have a complete BYOD solution. Of course, if you're doing a room solution, right, Teams room, Zoom room, where you're going to have a dedicated compute device, you'll typically want to take the display directly out of that device into the monitor. And then you're just connecting the VB1 to the compute device for the camera feed, as well as the microphone and the audio playback.
Paxson, we have a question about, is it PoE?
It is not PoE. No, unfortunately, it would still need to power. I'm assuming you mean the USB-C to power the laptop, and we're not carrying power over the USB-C cable. Was that the question?
Yep. And then we have another one. How big is the wall wart?
The wall cleat.
Yeah, it must be. Yeah.
You know, I don't have the exact dimensions on that. It is completely hidden behind the VB1. I want to say that it's 6 inches or so wide, but I do not know the answer to that specifically. It is completely hidden though behind the VB1. The VB1 sits into it with some clamps that are on the back of it.
How big? Okay. And so the next question is, how big is the power supply?
The power supply is an external DC power supply, and that is, I want to say it's about 3 inches long and about 1.5 inches tall, but I'm guessing at that. I can honestly say I've never actually measured it, but it's on the floor in front of me. But yeah, I think that's about the right dimension. John, if you have an exact dimension and can jump in, that would be awesome.
The next question I have is, why wouldn't you make it PoE?
So that is a good question. It has been discussed. There might be a future iteration where we're doing that, but at this point, we just weren't able to integrate that into the VB1 and kind of meet all the other requirements of it. But it's absolutely something that's been looked at and been discussed, and maybe a future iteration.
Okay.
All right, so to run our meetings, as I mentioned, right, we're using the USB-C for that single cable meeting. I did mention we have Bluetooth, and the Bluetooth is used both for control. So there's an app which mimics the remote control that ships with the VB1. So that uses BLE and chirp technology. So you can only connect to the device that's in your room. And that gives you a really simplistic use, especially right now where people might be wanting to touch as few things in a room as possible. But it also will let you stream audio. So you can stream music, and you can also use it to place calls. So when you're connected over Bluetooth, your mobile device can engage in a call. If you're also connected through the USB-C to a UC client, it'll actually bridge the calls together for you. So the far ends are hearing each other as you would want them to be, as opposed to listening through the speakers of the VB1 into the mobile device. So it'll give you a full bridge between the Bluetooth and the USB connection. So the last thing I wanted to quickly discuss with you guys on the VB1 is the remote management options. So I mentioned the Bluetooth. We do have the Bose Work configuration software, which is what we took a look at with the with the microphone demonstration. And this is a point-to-point software, so you can manage one VB1 at a time and do the complete configuration and setup. But we do also offer a Bose Work management software. And this will enable you to do enterprise scale management of the VB1s. I'm going to switch over here so we can take a quick look at that. So this is the Bose Work management software you're seeing on my screen. I only have a couple of devices that are are on my network right now. But I'll just show you a little bit about what we're doing in here.
Hey, Paxson, before you get too far down this lane, we have a question about, is it compatible with Crestron?
So can you give me a little bit more meaning for control?
Yeah, I believe, let's see. Yeah, control systems.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so we have an open API, which will allow complete control. We have the wired Ethernet connection as well as Wi-Fi on this device. So absolutely you can do IP-based control from Crestron or any third-party control software, including building management systems. Yeah. So it's a great question. And yeah, if you have an existing system management platform for this, you absolutely do not need to use the Bose Work Management. Everything that's available in here is available in the API. So with this software, this is free. Once the device is available, you'll be able to just download it. You can set up global passwords, so you can do a complete updating of all the passwords at one time. We can do firmware updates, including scheduled firmware updates. So you can take, do either staggered or take all the units offline in the middle of the night when they're not being used. We can set up profiles. So if you have a typical space that's kind of identical and it's set up in use, you can set up a profile and update all profiles at one time, or all devices with a new profile at one time, I should say. And then we have complete control over the options of the VB1 within this management software, including locating where in the building it is, but also the user access. So if, for instance, you didn't want to have Bluetooth availability on the VB1, you can remove that. You could have auto framing disabled. You can really configure what controls you want within the software, and then look at kind of all of the different video settings as well. And then, of course, you can sort however the view is that you need to see with the arrangement of the software to make it easy to navigate and move around. So that's the VB1. So we've really looked at an all-in-one device where we, excuse me, just realized I was hitting the wrong button here. An all-in-one device where it's a peripheral to UC platforms for kind of a premium experience in the huddle rooms all the way up to a medium conference room. So that was the introduction to Bose Work.
All right, so I'm gonna take back control here real quick, just so that I can show my screen and let everyone just, if you guys have any questions, feel free to raise your hand or in the control system, or send me a chat message if you still have questions. I want to remind you that we do have a sales team here. This is sort of the map of that team, and if you have any questions about these products, you can certainly reach out to your representative, and I do want to answer any questions you have. I will also mention that we will follow up with a survey just to make sure if you have any questions, then you could reach out to us as well. So I'm not seeing any questions. I'm just going to unmute everybody, and if they have a question, don't cuss right now. I'm going to unmute you, and if you have any questions, you can raise them now. Anybody have a question they'd like to ask? All right, well, I want to thank you guys all for attending. We appreciate it. And thank you to Paxson and John for joining us with the presentation from Bose. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to your salesperson about the product. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you, everyone.